that'll be the future. Like I've been playing Cyberpunk lately, so like all like the cybernetics and shit are all in it. And there's
Hmm.
this one gang you come across that their whole like fun of existence is to kidnap humans and figure out how they can modify them. So like
Interesting.
you come across this monk who's like all heavily modified and he's like I can never go back to being a monk because they did this to me, they desecrated my body, they have my brother. And then you find the brother and you're like how did they not modify you? He was like they were making jokes about which way they should make me better. And it's just a bunch of like humanoids with robotics fucking everywhere in them that you end up having to murder.
Oh,
I feel like anytime you do anything in that game, it's like if it's a main mission, it's like your only option is like shoot your way out eventually, which is great. It's
better
like
than
Doom.
okay. You need to sneak out of this.
Oh, I think the reason why I don't really have interest in stealth games anymore is because when we were younger, so many games were stealth based. Like,
Yes,
and they were great games. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Splinter Cells, even your
exactly what I was thinking.
even your average third person like adventure had segments or large portions of stealth sections. Every
Yeah.
mil- every military shooter before Call of Duty had that section where you're like, including Metal Gear Solid. I think they fucking championed it.
Well,
But
yeah, with the freaking box.
yeah, going through the hallways and not being seen, and like Metal Gear Solid, as beautiful as a game as though those are, it's hard to go back and replay them because it is a
Hmm.
lot of like not
Yeah.
action. The third, and then even the second one's probably my favorite, even though I know people hated it because you didn't play as solid the whole time. But the third one, the third one amped up the stealth where it's like, no, it's not good enough that you have to hide from people. You have to put face makeup on, and
Mhm.
but the problem is probably one of the best stories.
Yeah,
And then
that's one thing.
number four is three fucking movies plus a game.
Yeah, I have not played the Metal Gear Solid games in a long time. I think the last one I played was two, and I think I only started that one. Um,
So
but
I didn't like the last one. The last one had cool cutscenes and stuff, but the large chunk of gameplay was this open world that it just for me was like I would much prefer pure story driven linear Metal Gear Solid experience to something where it's like we're gonna and this basically they just dump you in an open area. You have several objectives to achieve this, and you can either use stealth or not use stealth with consequences. And it just wasn't fun for me. As opposed to I love Sons of Patriots, which was number four. Now Metal Gear Solid 4, literally, if you killed too many people in a row, Solid would go into just bloodlust and a rage, and you would just murder people. You would just continuously fire, and you would get like a 90-second burst of like no reload.
right,
I loved that one. Um,
yeah,
but I don't want games that like I know everybody likes Elden Ring, and I've played it myself, but I don't really want games to be that hard anymore.
yeah, and I feel like too many games have gone too deep into the open world stuff. Like,
Every game's fucking open
right,
world. Like
it has
RoboCop
its
wasn't even linear.
yeah, it absolutely has its place. If you want to have like Elden Ring, I think it works because part of it is exploring and finding all that stuff. But there is nothing wrong with having a linear game where you go A to B to C to D.
And they even did it to like for me, Doom 2016 is
Hmm.
better than the sequel. Because
Okay.
Doom 2016 was the same concept but linear. And then it's
Hmm.
like the sequel is like, hey, by the way, open world territory, here's your objectives, progress cutscenes in between. And that's kind of the formula of everything. I think the few standouts you have is Capcom still makes a lot of linear shit. All the Resident Evils, for the most part, are still pretty linear. Like, they're open world in the concept of like, yeah, it is an open area that you're roaming, but you still have to hit the A before you can unlock the B that then unlocks the C and then the D. Like Capcom and Resident Evil games have always had that pattern though, and they've always kept them. But I mean, Assassin's Creed's always been open world, but when they came out with Origins,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just fucking gigantic, and it's like, dude, who has
Yeah,
time?
it was
How do you have time
huge.
for this?
Yeah.
And how do you not get burnt out? Like, the problem with open worlds is I tend to do like a bunch of fucking side quests, and I do all that shit, and then by the time I hit the main campaign, it's just like I've already played 20 hours of this fucking thing.
Right. You've got people out there with ADHD, ADD, stuff like that. Like, I haven't been diagnosed, but I probably have just a touch of it at least. And it's like, make that worse, please.
Real quick, your mic keeps cutting like in and out.
Okay.
Let's drop out of the call and reconnect real quick. Let's just see if it's something
Okay.
to do with that.
I'll shake your bouncy booty. Hit it!
Okay, so I'm wondering if it's on my end. Let me see. Or if it's on Discord's end. I'm going to disconnect my Bluetooth and reconnect. Okay, can you hear me? I can't hear you. One sec. Why can't I hear you?
Ooh, ee, ooh, ting, tang, walla, bing, bang. Ooh, ee, ooh, ting, tang, walla,
Okay,
walla.
I got you. Yeah, no. I think it was me. Bless you.
Oh,
I
bless you,
think
Rudy.
I think there was he says bless you.
Thank you.
I think there was something going on with my Bluetooth because it sounded like you were talking into a fucking fan.
Oh,
Where it was just kind of like this, and I'm like, this can't be his microphone because it wasn't doing this. So I wanted, yeah, it was my bad.
got it figured out. That's
Yeah, there we go. We were talking
so.
about, oh yeah, open world video games and how they've essentially just become. I mean, that's the status quo, and I think it's all part. It's a everything's the counter swing, right? Like so, like because of the design limitations, you only could have games that were linear. Super
Right.
Mario, all of those old school games had to be linear by design and by technology limitations. So
Yeah.
the counterculture to that is everything is now open world, and then eventually I think you'll have a swing where like beat 'em ups are getting popular again. Like there's always a new Ninja Turtles, or I mean, what just came out? You have had a couple Ninja Turtles. I know Double Dragon's making a resurgence. You've had a few
Hmm.
different like beat 'em up collections of the old school ports of them.
Right.
Like so, those are making a comeback. So you have to wonder. One
And
game still has not reemerged, and it angers me. Is Simpsons Arcade.
yeah.
The last time I was able to play that, not on an arcade machine, which I am lucky because where we live in Illinois, we're about 35 minutes from the country's largest arcade.
Okay.
And
Lucky.
hundreds of machines, an entire building dedicated to pinball. So we are very lucky. But there's only one time I know of where you were able to play and buy Simpsons Arcade, and it was on Xbox Live Arcade.
Hmm.
The problem is you have to have a 360 to play it.
Right.
Like the licensing didn't come through, so it's not one of the ones that if they would just give me I would pay, I'm not even joking, I'd pay $30 for Simpsons Arcade alone. As long as it's
Yeah.
a local co-op port, hell, 40 if you give me online co-op. How about that? We'll start bargaining.
Yeah.
But they have yet to do it, which is frustrating because I think it's one of the greatest arcades of all time. And then there's all those really good ones that have just disappeared. The Time Crisis franchise, House of the Dead. Like they did a House of the Dead remake of the first one, but it came out and it disappeared. Now you can get it for $7 on sale.
Right.
I mean, that's the life cycle of games. Like if you wait,
It is.
it used to be months, a year, you get it on a discount, or it go into greatest hits after so long. And nowadays, it's day one. Most games, if you have Humble Monthly, it includes 20% off the game.
Right.
Which means that coupon alone, if you buy, let's say, a game a month, you're already saving enough to justify the subscription. Plus all the like whatever games you get with it.
Right.
And so, most games, if they're a game where it's like, all right, I'm getting that day one, I usually get it for $47.99 on Humble.
Hmm.
Depending if they're the $70 ones, then it's a little bit more. I think it's like $50 straight up. Or
Yeah.
53 or some shit like that. I don't remember how it works, but
Something like that.
But yeah, so like, and I don't know. I hardly buy games brand new anymore because it's a couple weeks, it's 10, 15 off. Couple months, it's half off at least. And if the game tanks,
Right.
you have situations like Suicide Squad, where over the holiday, the $100 deluxe edition was $5.
Yeah.
And that's the one that came with the entirety of the season pass. Mind you, this is still while they were supporting it. Now the support for it's dead now because they've updated what they were going to update and that was it. But you do get a full season, a full several seasons worth of content plus the game for $5. It's like it's also kind of sad because that game had like a $200 million budget.
Right.
Which I read the other day that the last Call of Duty had a $700 million budget.
I don't understand that. Like, I know it's a popular game. I know it sells a lot of copies. What is so damn innovative about Call of Duty from from one to the next that they need to spend that much freaking money on it?
I play the
Like,
game, or I haven't in a while, but I have been an avid player, and there's nothing in that product that justifies $700 million.
I mean, not even the marketing. The game sells itself by now. You know that there are
Yeah,
people out there. Call of Duty, here's my wallet.
it's they've literally hit the sports game genre where it's Madden, it's
hmm
NHL, it's NBA. Like if you're
Yep.
into that, it doesn't matter what people say, you're buying that new one.
Oh yeah, and I'm guilty. World of Warcraft, here's my wallet. Take my money, please.
I was
Like
like that for
I
Destiny for a while. Destiny 2,
yeah.
but then it was kind of like, how many am I supposed to buy of this?
Yeah, I wish I had gotten more into Destiny and played more multiplayer. I played a couple of times with some friends, and it was a lot of fun, but it just there weren't a lot of people that were playing.
Yeah, the sad truth about that game is mechanically, it was the best feeling first person shooter since Halo.
Oh yeah, it felt amazing. I
Yeah,
loved
and
it.
like people liked it for a while, but you're asking a lot of an audience to play a game for years. And then not only are they playing it for years, but unlike GTA Live, which they're, between the modding scene and the updates that Rockstar themselves are constantly doing, they've kept
Yeah.
that alive for 15 years or 10 years or whatever it's been.
Well,
You,
and the
you know,
RP aspect too. Like
oh,
there's
I wish I could get
God
into
knows
that.
how many. I don't even know how many freaking different RP servers there are out there right now. It's like every time I turn around, I feel like I'm hearing about a new Grand Theft Auto RP server that everybody's joining, and it's great because I love to watch people RP. Like some of the stuff that comes up is freaking hilarious, but they're absolutely propping that game up until 6 comes out.
Yeah. Here's the crazy thing is I don't think 6 is coming out with its live component available at launch.
Oh no, no,
So yeah, I know everybody's hyped on it, but Rockstar's looking at a colossal shitting the bed because people have forgotten that when GTA 5 came out 15 years ago, the online didn't debut until like a year or two after the game.
yeah, I think it was like when the PC release came out was when
Yeah.
live hit.
And if that happens, you will have people buy it because it's
hmm
going to be a fun game, but you will have people stop talking about it in a matter of a month or two, and they're going to continue just in the RP scene they're in and playing GTA 5 online. Like, and the scary thing is they haven't announced a PC date,
Right.
which means they don't have one, which means you're probably looking at a year later.
Yeah, at
Which,
least.
which is another bullshit, I think, scheme by companies like Sony to make their consoles relevant a little bit longer. It's
hmm
annoying. Console exclusivity is the stupidest fucking thing. Like back in the day,
Uh,
it is what it was. It was competition. But nowadays, the competition is so fractured because it's no longer Sony versus Microsoft or Sony versus Nintendo. Now it's Sony versus Microsoft, but Microsoft's kind of just like, I really don't give a shit about the consoles anymore.
right.
Like, hey, guess what? Fuck the consoles. You got this little USB thing? Plug it into your TV. It's a fucking Xbox. And Sony's over here like, yeah, we just brought a new $815 console out, huh?
I don't even. I don't even with the TV that we have in my living room. I don't even need a USB stick. I just connect my Xbox controller to it with Bluetooth, and I can play cloud games. I could walk out there right now and play freaking Indiana Jones on my TV, no Xbox required.
I thought it was a silly-ish idea at first, but I think there's something about being able to walk into like your living room and go, Samsung, turn on Xbox Live,
Yeah.
and then it pops up and it's there. Meanwhile, like the PS5's cool, but if you have a PS5 and you went and bought another PS5 Pro for $700, you're a fool. I mean,
Yeah.
you lose the disc drive, and it's like, well, I'll use my other PlayStation for my Blu-ray player. That's stupid. If
Yeah.
you want the PS5 Pro plus the disc drive plus the stand, all in you're like $830 before tax.
Yeah.
And people add, oh, it's so much more. And then you see people online that are like, you guys only get high frame rates because you're using DLSS, and it's like, you are right, but so is everybody else.
Yeah.
Every Microsoft game is using FSR, I think, or a form of it. Sony's got their own now that I guess is on par with DLSS. And then
Right.
NVIDIA's running the show as the mainstay, I'd say. I mean, AMD's FSR's 3 is pretty good.
I mean, ultimately, though, I think that's... console war is stupid, I agree with you. And I think that Microsoft realized that too. And the way that they're going about it is the only way that they were going to, quote-unquote, win the console war was by redefining how the war is. Fine.
Yeah, and
You don't want to buy our console? Fine, we'll put Xbox wherever you are. You want it on your phone? Great, here you go. You want it on your Switch? Here you go. You want it on your TV? Fine.
the differences are so small, too. Like, that's the other thing is back in the day, there was a difference graphically between a PS1 game and an N64 game. There was a difference graphically between Sega Saturn and PS1. They were different hardware, and now it's all just so fucking similar where it's like you have Xbox One S and PS5, roughly same performance. Some games do better on one console, some games do better on another. PS5
Right.
Pro is stronger than the Series X. But Microsoft's taking a different approach. Rather than charging people more, they go, I think they're kind of taking the approach of like, yeah, power is pretty good, but like you can get, I mean, I think it's Series X quality that streams if your internet's high enough
I think so.
or close to it. I think it's because there's no games really being made for OG Xbox One.
Right.
And I think they need to do away with the Xbox S. I mean, I can't remember what the game is, but the development team basically said the only reason there isn't an Xbox port of the game yet is because of the Xbox S. I think it was I don't know, Wukong came out for Xbox. I can't remember which one it was, but basically the whole thing is if they didn't have to try to figure out how to get it to run on that fucking console, people would already have an Xbox port.
Is it Tsushima?
No, because that's Sony. That's a Sony property.
Okay.
It's one of these ones that is not a Sony exclusive, but there's a Stellar Blade.
Okay.
Apparently they wanted to do one, but getting the game to run on the S is a bitch. And it's like, get away with just you're charged. There's so many sales on these consoles nowadays where you can get an Xbox Series X for $400. Like, just go for it.
Yeah.
If you're already, I mean, it's at the minimum you're getting a higher powered console and a 4K Blu-ray player.
Right.
Just look at it that way.
Like, I got the Series S. Full disclosure. I bought it whenever it first came out, but that's because I had just bought Game Pass. Like, I wanted all these games, all that kind of stuff. But in hindsight, I wish I had just gotten the full Series X.
At first, it wasn't bad. Like were the games that were coming out were relatively similar to the Xbox S with just like some tweaks, like a little bit lower resolution, higher DLSS usage, and some, maybe like a lower tier textures. But a game like Indiana Jones, which on my PC streaming it and playing it, I'm lowering things to medium because I mean it's a massive fucking game. It's a gorgeous high power. I can't even turn on ray tracing at the game without bringing it to 5 frames a second.
Yeah.
I will say Microsoft has fucked over PC players again. The Game Pass version's frame generation is broken.
Okay.
So you don't even have the benefit of that on the NVIDIA side. All you've got is the standard DLSS, which helps. Otherwise, that game I'd be running at 30 frames to stream it because it's a pig.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had, Xbox S in the beginning, especially that first slate of quote unquote next gens, handled them perfectly. It's just nowadays, the games they're making are once again, Call of Duty has a $700 million budget. Somehow,
Yeah. Well,
you
and the
know,
other thing too is space. Like these games, it's like I think mine came with it's either 500 gig or 1 terabyte. I
oh
forget
yeah,
which,
the
but
the hard disk and each game,
the right,
Indiana Jones is literally 1/4 of your space.
right. That's just ridiculous. And the fact that I buy like the again, I have the S, so it doesn't have the discs. But the fact that if I had the X, I buy a game on a disc, and then I have a 50 gig download on top of the disc, like that's just fucking ridiculous.
The
Especially
only
because,
the only way to get around that is if you use your Xbox a lot for playing anything that doesn't use the SSD, because then you just plug it in an external to it, and
right.
you can run the older games on it. But yeah, that's the problem. Is let's say you're a Call of Duty player. In order to take full advantage of the Game Pass, you need more, especially in a 500 gig, the S.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I have the S, or I have the S with the terabyte, and
Mhm.
it's basically like, what few games do I want to install, and I'll play
Right.
these until and then everything else is on the expansion because it's all the 360 titles.
Yeah. Well, and then on top of that, our ISP gives us it's 1 terabyte a month of data, or like 1.25. And again, if I'm downloading games or I'm cloud streaming games, I burn through that so fast. Like, and we get an extra 500 gig for $30, or we could go up to the 100 and I think it's like $150 package because we're paying 85 for 500 down, and it gets ridiculous though
Is
because it's
is the more expensive one unlimited, or is there still a cap?
yeah. So the you can pay an extra 50 and you get unlimited. So it would be 100, about 130, 140 for us to get unlimited data at 500 down. And then, so I've really thought about it just because
Probably worth it.
yeah,
Because I mean, if
uh,
let's say you have a big month where you got to reinstall your PC,
yeah. And we've
and
had that happen.
on your one drive you want to reinstall Baldur's Gate 3, Doom, and let's just say Call of Duty. That's 500 gig right there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely like, once we get some stuff straightened out, we're probably going to do that. Like right now, I did the 30 bump up just so I don't have to worry about it. Because there have been a couple of months where it's like, oh, hey, we bought something new. We got to
Yeah,
re-download all this stuff. The other thing is on both of our desktops, I put in an extra hard drive, and it's like that is for data. All of your games and all of your stuff goes there, so
I
that
had to
whenever
do
we
that
get
too. I bought I have a 10 gig, I'm sorry, 10 terabyte,
mm-hmm,
7200 RPM in here, and that's where all the video files, all of my Photoshop, all of them are stored on that. There's a
mm-hmm.
few games on it, like older stuff from like GOG and stuff that I own, but
Yeah,
primarily I house it. No matter how many times I have to reinstall this bastard, I house all of that shit on that drive because generally speaking, there's never an install on it. So
mm-hmm,
unless something catastrophic happens, that should never be wiped.
right,
I do have a cloud backup as well, but I hate dealing with the
yeah,
cloud backup. It's annoying
yeah,
because eventually you have to comb through like your entire cloud backup to find the one file that you think may have been deleted, but then you find it on the drive that still exists, and you're like, I just wasted a fucking hour.
yeah,
Because you end up finding it in the cloud, but then you realize it's a drive you still have.
right,
I've done that
yeah,
way too much. I am excited though, because on the Xbox, I got the Guitar Hero controller, the PDP Riffmaster,
mm-hmm,
and I got curious, and I know it works with the Xbox, so I went on the Xbox market for shits and gigs, and just to see how much Rock Band 4 was. They
yeah,
had the Rock Band 4 Rivals edition for $10, So now
Nice.
I'll plug my Xbox in the living room, and when I want to go hang out in there, I can bring the guitar in there. Which
Yeah.
these things, I mean, I would have been okay with it being just wired. I don't need wireless, but it
Right.
is wireless and it's rechargeable. I mean,
Okay.
and then people online do wonderful things. Like we're doing another stream of it this weekend, and between the last stream and now, I've accumulated the entire Beatles rock band track pack. So every song they had in there, I've got Rob Zombie, I've got some System of a Down, I've got
Yeah.
Disturbed, I got a bunch of Rammstein, a bunch of shit that
Hmm.
it was never in any of these games, and that's thanks to the Clone Hero community mainly,
Yeah.
because
I,
those people are out there fucking building charts for them and uploading them. They're taking the time.
yeah. Yeah. People on the internet, like, as much as we do some dumb shit on the internet, there is some stuff that just has been magnificent for the gaming community at large. Like, one of my favorite game series has been and always will be Legend of Zelda. And biggest one for me because it was like right in that time frame of, hey, I'm getting really into gaming, was Ocarina of Time. I don't know if you've ever played an Ocarina of Time randomizer, but that has just absolutely rejuvenated that community as a whole.
I've never even heard of that. I mean, I played. We had the N64. I played the shit out of that game. I've also played it on emulation.
Okay, so randomizers, you've played Ocarina of Time, you know where everything is. You've probably played it enough to at least remember most of that stuff.
Yeah.
Treasures, all the heart pieces, all the dungeon stuff. I'm going to throw it in a blender and change where you find it in the world.
So they basically
So,
procedurally generate those things so the puzzles stay fresh, huh?
right. And you can do it one of two ways. You can do logical, where it makes sure that you are picking up items in the order that you need them to be able to progress through the game. So, like, basically, you will always pick up the progressive, um, like, you'll pick up the slingshot before you pick up the bow, before you pick up the larger bow, stuff like that. Or we're going to go with no logic, where you pick up whatever I give you whenever I give it to you. And you just have to figure out what to do with it.
I
But
gotta be. I do when I emulate nowadays because I'm a simple person. I usually play like WWF No Mercy
mhm,
because like I have memories of we'd have three buddies would come over to one buddy's house, each bring
mhm,
a controller, and we would just run that Royal Rumble over and
yep,
over. And the best thing about that was it was forced you to play with like a bunch of different people because
yeah,
nobody was lasting the whole Rumble. So
no,
eventually you're gonna get knocked out, and you take the control of another character.
right,
And dude, that's another one. Like if they were to release that, or
mhm,
give us the four games that were made by that creator, which were two WCW games, No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000. If you gave me a pack of those four with online co-op capability, $50 I'm in.
yeah,
Like, and I think, and the other thing is the modding community would go ape shit because there's already mods for those games where they mod the emulation and then they package them in an N64 cartridge to where you can put it into your old N64 and play the modded version. It's awesome.
yeah, and you can do that with like the randomizers too. You can either do it through emulation, or you can. It's a cartridge. Like there's one for the SNES as well. It's called SD to SNES. But you can do the same thing
Mm.
with Link to the Past. Like you just load it to an SD card, put it into this thing, and put it in your SNES and play on a regular SNES.
I had
It's
one
the
of
same thing.
those when I was younger because I was a massive bootlegger because I didn't have any money. 'Cause I didn't have a
Yeah.
job. So I remember on my Nintendo DS, I ordered one of those.
Hmm.
And I remember the first time I used it I downloaded and uploaded all these fucking games, dude. And I remember the first time I pulled it out, I think we were in the car, and I go to play it, and I'm like overwhelmed by the fact that I've got every new game that you can play on it. So I'm over, play. That was back in the day when like House of the Dead was on there, and
Hmm.
so long ago I barely remember what most DS games are like.
Yeah.
Like we had the 3DS as well. And like I'm not really a Switch mobile guy much. I mainly play it on my TV.
Yeah, I don't really take it anywhere either. It's not comfortable for traveling. And I know that that was the intent with it, and I know that there are people that do that. But for me, like I've got big mushy hands, and it's just
Yeah.
not. It's flat, and I feel
Well,
like I'm going to break this stupid thing.
the new design from what they were showing off at CES is largely similar, but I saw the one video where the Joy Cons are, I believe, magnetic. They're no longer slide in, and when you
I
put
heard
them
that.
in, there's like a plastic shielding that pulls around them and just snugs them
Oh,
in. It's like a flap almost like a. The way it looked to me was you pull this like locking mechanism down, and then you can just kind of pull the Joy Cons right off. But then you
okay.
flip it back up, and they're attached securely while still just being magnetic and not a slide in.
Okay.
We'll see.
Uh,
I'm a
yeah.
little concerned with it only having the power of a PS4 Pro, but I mean it's good for a mobile. But when you've got things like the Steam Deck, and you've got those are only
Mhm.
getting stronger, it gets harder and harder to justify a handheld for $500 that you've only got one library you can access as opposed to
Mhm.
Steam, and that
Yeah.
library is limited. Like unless Nintendo goes, every game that's ever been on the Switch will benefit.
Yeah.
We've
And,
coded them all, so if there's games that were 30 frames at 720p, there's 60 frames at 1080p on the Switch too. That sort of thing.
yeah, and I had heard somewhere that that was going to be the case. Was that Switch games, at least the cartridges, would be compatible with the new Switch. So if that's accurate, that's great. And I feel like Nintendo though has always been at least one generation hardware wise behind everybody else. But they get away with it because they have their own library. Like you
Not only is
know,
it their own library, but 9 times out of 10, the games they produce are outstanding.
yes.
Like every
And
now
there's
and then
certain
they release
games.
one, it's like, eh. But most Nintendo first parties, the reason why
Mhm.
the Switch is successful is because everybody still wants to play Mario Party or Mario Kart, any one
Right.
of those games. Or Zelda, the
Yeah.
only fucking place you can get any Zelda game,
Hmm.
you know? And it's been that way
Yeah.
forever.
Right. And they get you know what they're coming to the market with whatever they come out with the Switch 2. There's going to be a Mario game. There's going to be a Zelda game. There's going to be potentially a Donkey Kong game. There's going
Well,
to be
they
an
so
Animal Crossing game.
they just had their this month they're releasing Donkey Kong, I think, Returns HD remaster.
Hmm.
And with the new Switch, you already know Metroid Prime 4 is coming.
Yes.
The
Metroid
other
Dread 2.
Metroid Dread 2, the other Metroid Prime 2 and 3 have yet to release on Switch 1. Only the first one's
Hmm.
been brought out, and that thing will look a lot better and run better, even though it was already pretty immaculate on it. So
Right.
you have a whole slate of like franchises that you know will make a return. If they're smart, they bring back Star Fox. Like
Oh.
start hitting people hard with that. Like if they're
Hmm.
smart and use the technology. Like I'm a big fan of like Wonderful 101 and those
Hmm.
type games, and like I'd love to see a reemergence of Beautiful Joe.
Yeah.
So like they need to hit hard, I think, with nostalgia, but obviously bring it up to snuff and the power. And having a PS4 Pro power, you're still going to be lagging way behind on anything first AAA first party from other studios, but that's never been their game. Like Nintendo wants to give people variety, but they'd be fine if only Nintendo titles were on that fucking thing because it'd still sell.
Right. They've got the JRPG market cornered.
And that's the other thing is like games like Palia and stuff like that right now are are thriving. I think in a big part because you have the new Animal Crossing vacuum.
Yes.
But once that new one comes out, because like if you look at the communities even now, Animal Crossing is still steady.
Mm.
Like if you look at Twitch, you just happen to look up how many people are viewing the game. Like as soon as
Yeah.
that new one, and then of course Jen and I were always a big fan of Splatoon. So that inevitable sequel will pick up on our new Switches.
I need to play those. I have not played.
They're fun, dude, because they feel like legit third person shooter competition games, but you just fucking painting shit. And yeah, you can kill each other and whatnot, but
Yeah.
like it's much like the Marvel Rivals mode. with Jeff the Fish, where they've got a mode right. I don't know if it's still there, but they had a mode where your goal wasn't to kill each other; it was to get more paint on the side, and it was basically Splatoon in Marvel Rivals. It was really cool.
Right.
But
Just
a new Splatoon would be awesome. I was a fan of those.
yeah,
Love
there'll be
Splatoon. We
another
played a lot of them.
Splatoon.
But the problem is, once the Switch 2 comes out, I'm going to have to get her my Jenna capture card so we could set it up on her desk or her PC. I mean, the thing's only going to
Yeah.
go to 1080p anyways.
Yeah. So just back to what we were talking about with Animal Crossing. One New Horizon,
How many people?
which is 1,400, 1.4 thousand,
For
which is
reference,
not bad.
look up Paleo. Because I looked up Paleo earlier. I was a bit surprised.
270. Yeah. I mean, part of that, let's see. High to low. Yeah.
I do
Top
wish
viewer
Paleo.
right.
I wish Paleo had things like Animal Crossing's JPEG uploading interactions, where you could actually have your own designs and shit. I think if they did something
Yeah.
like that, you're looking at more of a takeover. If you were able to bring the customization to the game more so like an Animal Crossing has.
Yeah. But I mean, you're absolutely right though. When the new Animal Crossing game comes out, there's going to be a shuffle from Palia to Animal Crossing. They're going to do that for a little while.
Well, all
It-
those
it-
games that are kind of cozy, Pal World. I mean, all these cute, and even though Pal World's a survival game, aesthetically, it's still this cozy, bubbly kind of creature game.
right.
So when the new Animal Crossing, it's going to affect all of them.
Yeah.
And because Animal Crossing, to its credit, gives you a little bit of everything. You know, like Palia does too, but Palia is a little like the things it gives you, it's one dimensional on.
Mhm.
It's like you can do this, but that's the limitation of it.
Right.
And Animal Crossing, from when I was playing it, felt like there was always new shit you would find. And there's only so many recipes that they have in Palia now, so like the diehards have probably unlocked most of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's Palia's hitting the same wall that every early access free to play type game hits, is the content is not releasing fast enough for the player base.
right.
And that was the same thing I said about Pal World, and people gave me shit about it, but I said if they don't, this game is so hugely popular and ballooned so massively so fast that if they don't get the content out fast, people will stop giving a shit.
Yeah.
And eventually
Palia players right now are screaming for that new like Everwood Forest or whatever, the new zone
Yeah.
that's supposed to come out soon. They're screaming for it because none of them have anything to do.
Well, not only that, but the problem is not only are they waiting for this new biome, but there's mechanics like swimming that don't exist for some reason.
Right.
There's always some new bug that's coming up. So it's like the player base is kind of like, hey man, we understand the content's taking a while to release, but why am I still walking directly through mountains?
Right.
So like
Yeah, you have to
that's
get
the problem.
yeah, you have to get the little stuff fixed. And yeah, they are going to burn themselves out.
But I mean, in all fairness, even games with massive budgets like Cyberpunk, which is now quote unquote fixed, still had a moment while I was playing it where a car went into the ground and was, with just a part of its hood sticking out of the concrete, was still driving. And it made me laugh because I was playing GTA 3 Remastered the other day, and the same fucking thing happened where I was close to the bay, and a sailboat is sailing through the concrete street. And it's like, this is literally, what, 25, 30 years of gaming differences?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still the same fucking bugs.
Well, and then the other day, I think it was you, was playing Indiana Jones and like the floor collapsed or whatever, and you looked up and you saw legs going through the ceiling, through the rock,
Yeah.
like same.
That
It's
game,
the same thing.
that's buggy. And I won't
Yeah.
100% blame the game. I know Game Pass is usually has a lag with its updates, where the Game Pass version's usually lesser quality than the Steam version. For
Yeah.
whatever reason, half the time DLSS is broken on these games. Like when Call of Duty Black Ops 6 first came out on the Game Pass edition, DLSS didn't do anything.
Right.
It literally made your image look worse because you were now upscaling with zero performance impact at all. So like Game Pass is notorious for those versions coming out not being full fledged. I can't
Right.
remember the game, but there was a game that released not too long ago that flat out just didn't have DLSS. Meanwhile, the Steam counterpart did.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're paying for a service, but in a world where we own nothing, even Steam now legally has to tell you, hey man, whatever you're quote unquote buying, we can remove at any point. You don't actually own
Digital
it.
copy.
So like in that sort of premise, do I spend $60 a game or do I spend $20 a month? I'm not
Yeah.
owning anything either way.
Right.
Like the only difference is, you can install shit on Steam after, you don't need that subscription, but if they lose licensing or we've had it with Apple with
Right.
Airheads. We had the digital on it and one day it's gone.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking, I'm like, okay, I don't know what happened here. I could have swore we owned it. And then I look on Voodoo, you can't buy it. Look on Apple, you can't buy it. And not only did they lose licensing, they sell it, they pulled it out of the fucking library. And I will say, Voodoo's never done that to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that's on my list in general is we have it's probably like 300, 350 DVDs, Blu-rays, stuff like that I want to set up a Plex server at some point and basically just run it out of my office because I don't like buying movies online. We have a couple we have like the Friday the 13th collection because it was like $10.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like
on Friday the 13th, they always got that
Yeah.
fucker on sale.
stuff that it's like, okay, I'd be okay not having access to this all the time. Fine. But there's so much stuff that like just it's not always going to be available. Biggest example, I'm a big fan of The West Wing. I don't know if you ever watched it. Fantastic series.
It's
It's
never
been on
did, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Not Charlie Sheen, Martin Sheen.
Yeah. And it's been on HBO Max for multiple years at this point. New Year's Day they pulled it off. Didn't tell anybody they were pulling it off. West Wing Reddit community went absolutely bonkers, and they were like, "What the heck happened?" Because typically you get warning with stuff like that. And HBO Max came back and they're like, "Oh, licensing, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit." And enough people complain that they put it back. But it's like, that's exactly what I want to avoid is if there's something that I really want, I'm going to buy a physical copy and then I'll just put it up on my Plex server and I'll be good. Because I hate this idea of, oh, you own it? Oh, not anymore. Sorry.
I do too. And I'm kind of a slave to the digital market because frankly, the physical media market has outpriced itself. Who wants to spend $35 on a movie? Blu-rays came out, and as a kid, I remember, or younger, remember them being like 20, most expensive 25 maybe. But and it's not just brand new movies. If I go on Amazon and I look up, some fucking RoboCop 4K physical, it's $35.
Yeah,
and that's my big thing is just like. And some services are better. Like one thing I do like about Apple TV is if you buy a digital movie and it's a 1080p, if that movie does get a 4K transfer, you get it automatically. Which I like. Vudu doesn't do that. Vudu basically like if you own it 1080p and it comes out in 4K, it's like you want to upgrade it.
Yeah.
And you got to pay more. So I do give props to Apple, but I won't buy TV shows on Apple. Because I've had Airheads removed, and I've never had that on Vudu. I have movies in my Vudu library they don't sell anymore.
Yeah,
but they're still there.
Right.
So like I trust Vudu more. Like I think we've bought one of the things we got on Vudu, and I bought it because I was up late like I always am. It's like 3 a.m. I'm in the bathroom. I'm on my phone. I happen to log into Vudu and I see the entire series of The Office for $10.
Nice.
And I was like, this is not right. Bye. Sure enough, I end up going to bed. I wake up within hours it's back to like $80 fucking or whatever they charge for it. That's got to be probably the greatest deal, because I remember when we got the DVDs of The Office. I got
Mm-hmm.
them on sale Black Friday at Target because I was working at a GameStop in the same plaza, and I had an hour
Mm-hmm.
lunch, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck, dude. I'll go to Target. So I
Yeah.
went to Target, and they had them for $10 a season.
Oh yeah.
And then I got the whole thing for $10. But then fucking Peacock starts bringing out full. They took all the deleted scenes and put them back in the episodes. So now we watch. I own the fucking series, but we watch them on Peacock.
Yeah.
By the way, Jen, they're up to 8 seasons now. Yeah, so they have the series they call them the super fan episodes, and they didn't release all of them at once because they're bastards.
Of course.
So like last time we watched The Office, and we watch it at least once a year, they we watch it, and then as soon as we finish the season, I think it was season 5 or whatever it was, as soon as we finish it, Peacock releases that season in the superfan episodes. And it's like we're not watching that whole fucking season again. So we'll hit it on the next time. So we haven't watched it in some time, and I think they've gotten like 2 or 3 more seasons to the superfan episodes, which
Okay.
it's a double-edged sword, because if you're like me, I don't like the first season.
Yeah.
It's a carbon copy of the British one, and I'm not a big fan of how they did it. So you have essentially double, every episode is not 20 minutes, it's like 45 minutes. And so the first season is just like, fuck, man, I've got double the season now. But every other
Right.
season after that, it's the same thing. Like, usually each episode's extended by at least 10 or 15 minutes. Like, they add a bunch of shit back in.
Mm-hmm.
And we've watched it so many fucking times that now it's like, hey, that's new. Like, we can point it out. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's other shows, like, we just don't have enough time. There's shows that I want, like, there's shows, I never used to watch shit by myself, but we just don't have enough time. So if there's things that she really doesn't have direct interest in, it's like, I'll watch that tonight, late at night by myself. And the problem is I get caught up, like, one of the stupid shows I got caught up in is, that Sylvester Stallone movie, King of Tulsa. King of Tulsa.
Okay.
Great
I've
show.
seen. I have not watched that.
I don't even know how to describe it, dude. It's a mix of, I don't know, Breaking Bad meets Sons of Anarchy meets Goodfellas. Like, the whole thing is he's
Okay.
a mobster who gets put in prison for several decades. He never dimes on his crew. Gets out of prison, and they're just kind of like, we really don't have a spot for you, so we're going to send you to Tulsa, Oklahoma to claim
Yeah.
shit there. And he eventually gets into the weed game. And then
Okay.
there's, everything that makes, there's got to be drama. I
Well,
think it's
yeah.
it's produced by the dude who wrote Yellowstone. I think he's got
Yeah.
10 fucking shows out there now.
Yeah, I remember. Like that's why it got promoted really heavily, was because it was around the same time as Yellowstone. So they were like, "Oh, from the producer of this, go watch that." Like, okay.
Well, I read somewhere that he's got a show out there now with Billy Bob Thornton in it. I mean, the guy's got like 10 fucking shows he's producing and writing. He's got
He's doing a lot.
barbecue seasoning. Like, he's got way too much shit going on. He's got a legit ranch.
Yeah.
He's got a horse ranch, and then I don't know. I keep seeing these lists of the celebrities who are losing their homes in California, and like the human in me is like, that's sad. That sucks, man. It really does. But like the human in me is just like, what about the people that don't have millions to rebuild?
Right.
Like, I don't feel bad for Anthony Hopkins. He's got a house in Italy. His main home's probably in London. Like, the problem with what this is, if these people leave, half of California's taxes are gone. So then the people
Right.
who don't have money are screwed over even more. It's just going to be such a nasty fucking cycle after this.
Yeah. So I guess has 7 different shows. So there's Special
jeez.
Ops Lioness,
Ugh.
which has Zoe Saldana, Nicole Kidman, Morgan Freeman. Okay, sounds interesting.
The titles lost me a little bit though. Special
Mayor of
Ops
Kingston.
Lioness.
Yeah, it like Zoe Saldana's the main character, which I'm happy to see her doing work.
Something, yeah. The problem is it's
Good
hard
for
to
her.
play. It's hard to be that like young, cute, bubbly character in your 40s. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same problem James Bond has. Like,
Hmm.
there's a vast difference of coolness and intimidation from like a 35-year-old James Bond compared to like a 55-year-old James Bond.
Yes. Mayor of Kingston, which
That
is the
that
one
look
with
that looks cool.
Jeremy Renner. Yeah, that one looks cool, and I like Jeremy Renner.
I do too, especially considering he was almost eaten by a fucking snowplow.
Right, and the fact that he's like up walking around doing shit still, like they're talking about another season of Hawkeye. Bring it on.
I like him.
Lawman
He's one of the
Bass
few that
Reeves.
he's one of the few like I feel like you could probably hang out with. You know,
Mm,
like, hey, you want to go see a movie? Sure. Let's not. Yeah, I'm gonna wear a hat the whole time, so nobody. Yeah, no problem. Fine.
right. Let's see, 1920 with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren.
See, I like
Uh,
Yellowstone, but I don't think I have any interest in that.
we watch Wim and I watched that one, and it was pretty good. I mean, hard carry by Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, of course.
Well, it doesn't have
Um,
Rip either.
true.
Like, even I mean, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing is,
Yeah,
especially now that when Kevin Costner left, because I think they're doing a spin-off for Beth and Rip. Like
probably.
they've got their own show coming out. There's rumor of another spin-off. Like
Hmm.
that was the issue with that show is like Kevin Costner when it first came out was the name, and
Hmm.
then people watch the first season and they're like, "Hey man, I've never heard of that Cole Hauser, but he's awesome." And it's like, you've never seen Dazed and Confused? Like you don't know who fucking Cole Hauser? You never seen Pitch Black? Like really?
I did not. I did not remember him from Dazed and Confused. I remember him from Paparazzi.
Paparazzi. Yep. Crazy enough, that movie's
That
directed by Mel Gibson.
really,
Yes,
I have not seen that in so
he
long. I did not.
not only did he direct it, but he directed that movie after he had violent engagements with paparazzi. So like he gets run-ins with paparazzi, then makes a fucking movie about a guy, a celebrity who starts killing fucking paparazzi. The balls on him.
Little on the nose there, Mel.
Yeah, like well, so in Dazed and Confused, he was one of the football players. He was one of the jocks.
Okay.
In Pitch Black, he was the bad guy opposite Vin Diesel. He was Dokes,
Okay.
the druggy bounty hunter. He's done
Yeah.
in so much shit. He even played like he was a bad guy, I think, in one of the Fast and the Furious, maybe number 2. I might be wrong on that one, but I feel like he
No,
was
you're
in,
right.
right.
It came up like too fast. Shit, you're right.
Yeah, he was a bad
He
guy. Yeah.
was.
And because
He,
he's gained a little bit of weight and he's
right,
grown a
and that's
beard.
exactly it. Like, and not in a bad way. He's bulked up a little
Yeah,
bit. So
yeah.
yeah, but you're right. Like, I was typing his name into I
He,
or actor Too Fast, Too Furious.
he
No,
literally he literally went from dressing like a city man gigolo to fucking a cowboy in his career, and this is the role that's going to be defining him.
right.
Like, I think the first time I'd ever seen him was Dazed and Confused. The first time I ever actually liked him in a movie was Pitch Black,
Okay.
because that movie's just badass. But yeah, dude. And then when I was like, oh, cool. And then I found out who he's married to. You know who he's married to? He's married.
At one point.
He is married to what's the girl's name from Joe Dirt? Joe Dirt's love interest in that movie is Cole Hauser's real life wife.
Cynthia Daniel. Okay.
Like, what a weird world Hollywood is, dude.
Yeah, like
Also, he's
where's
invested,
my
and he's got he's got horse ranches. He's got $1 million equestrian stables. Like, he put money into all that shit, and he's got bazooka bucks from that. Oh no, we've messed up our camera feed.
oh, did I? Oh,
We're just gonna split it like this. We're gonna. Oh no, we're gonna see. The problem is now it's got her on one side and him on the other. And if they get divorced, I'm gonna feel responsible.
Oh no.
But I remember when Joe
All right.
Dirt came out, and I was like, "Wow, she's gorgeous." And then you find out she married him. Like, I'm sorry, Cole Hauser's cool now, but he's been missing in action for a fucking decade.
Yeah. All right, I'll close that. I didn't even think about that.
So what we'll do in the future is we will do 2 separate scenes, and I'll set up the second scene where it'll be our boxes on the left and then a bigger box on the right for the image. I just didn't do that, and it's easier to set up for when we go live than editing it in too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No. The funny thing is literally we have a red line down the center of our fucking screen, and it looks like a divorced photo that like the National Enquirer would have posted, where it's like they're separated now.
Oh
I
no.
hope they stay happily together. I'll feel bad if they separate now. Poor Cole Hauser.
Too. Yeah.
He did nothing wrong to anybody. Poor Rip. He's actually, I got to be honest with you, out of all the spin-offs that could come out of Yellowstone, if they, like, I haven't seen the last season, so I don't know what happens to any of the characters. But I tell you right now, if you were going to give a spin-off to anybody, if they don't die, for all I know, it would be Beth and Rip and or, oh, shit. I just had it in my head. Because I don't know what happens to Jamie. Personally, I hope he dies at the end of the fucking show. So I wouldn't want him to have a cutoff or a spinoff.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen enough and heard enough just from people on the internet not being understanding that you got to give a little bit of a grace period to people who don't watch this stuff right when it comes out. But so I know I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, no spoilers on this one. But I've always been I don't mind spoilers. I think there's like here's the thing is if you want to read a story, you read a book. If you want to watch a movie, whether you know what's going to happen or not, you watch the movie because it's a visual treat. So like somebody could literally come up to me and like it could have been, it could have been Star Wars and they've been like, "Yo, Darth Vader is Luke's father." And I'm the type where I'd have been like, "Fuck, man, I want to see that scene." Like, spoilers don't spoil anything for me. I want to see it. I want to visualize it. It's the same thing of like if somebody comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, man, this song's really fucking good." Would you just take their word for it, or would you try it out and listen to it?
Yeah, I am a believer in the grace period.
Yeah, so, we were guilty of that with the Nerd or Two Movie podcast. We would do a review like the week it would on something that was streaming, and during the pandemic, there was so much shit coming out right away.
Yeah,
we were unintentional, but it was like we're doing a review and we're running our mouth about the movie. So
yeah, and it's. Give me just 1 second.
If my camera's looking weird, I don't think it's you.
No, it looks okay. I'm a believer in the grace period, but the grace period depends on what it is that you're watching. Because like when Game of Thrones came out, Game of Thrones was huge, but I was like, okay, a week or at least a couple of days.
Here's the thing: if you're watching Game of Thrones weekly and you're not watching the episode within a few days, do you even give a shit about the show? Like, unless you're extraordinarily busy, most people were taking the hour to watch the show.
Yeah.
Like, I do agree with the not spoiling things, but there's a certain point of, like, whether people like it or not, there's a certain societal thing where people are going to want to gab about shit they're passionate about. And it's like, if you've talked to somebody on lunch about Game of Thrones for 8 fucking weeks in a row, well, when Gary comes in for lunch and he sees you, he's going to expect to talk about what happened.
Yeah, and like, it's one of those things that just I see both sides of it. I fully understand it. I'm not a big spoiler person, but it's varying levels. Like story stuff, like okay, Marvel movies in particular, it's all based around the comics, so fine. The biggest spoiler thing for me lately that has been a big disappointment was the fact that in Deadpool and Wolverine, they brought back Chris Evans as the Human Torch.
Yeah, that was a
I
big
have been
spoiler.
looking forward to that since they started like any of the Deadpool stuff, like at all, and brought Chris Evans back as Captain America. I was like, it would be hilarious if they did exactly that. And so that was something that I'd kind of been looking forward to, like, for basically 10, 12 years at that point. And somebody spoiled it for me before I got to go see it. And I was just like, damn it.
So
It was still cool. I still wanted to see it. But it's just.
I was so excited to see that movie in the theaters, and then I got sick,
Oh, no.
and we didn't get to see it in theaters. So like, the only knowledge I got about it was literally when it came out. I'm sitting in this fucking rehab center, just reading spoiler after spoiler to the point of like, before it hit digital, before I had ever seen the movie, I knew exactly every cameo. I was able to tell, like, I was able, between watching movies so much, I was able to predict when things were going to happen. I had read about, but it was okay because, you know, once again, it is what it is. Like a movie like that, I do agree. You don't want things like, before it comes out. I think it's shitty to spoil all that stuff.
Yeah.
I do feel when you have something that is like that massive, it's hard to like, when everybody's talking about it, it's hard to be like, hey man, don't spoil that. And it's like, there's 35 people in this room and there's 2 of you that haven't seen it. Like, you're outnumbered. I'm going to talk about it. I'm sorry.
Right. And it's one of those things that, like, going back to what you were talking about with Darth Vader and all that, that was one of those things that was kind of, it's like almost, it's one of the defining moments in the movies now. Then I don't think anybody really gave a crap.
Yeah, you gotta wonder, because nowadays you still have the Star Wars nerds in theaters like gasping, and it's like, you guys have watched this movie 40 times. What are you gasping?
Right.
You gotta wonder if back then people walked out of their theater and they're like, oh, Vader was his father, huh? It's kind of cool, and they just went about their day.
Yeah, I do love. There's a story that Mark Hamill told on. He was on, what's that British guy's show? Either way,
Graham Norton.
Yes, thank you. Hey, look at that. He was on Graham Norton before The Force Awakens came out, and he was talking about, when they came to him to tell, because it was Kirshner who was, I'm pretty sure, was directing that one, and George Lucas. So Kirshner comes up to him and says, hey, here's, like, we're gonna film this scene next. There's a change to it. Here's the script. I know, George Lucas knows, and now you know. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the clip is on YouTube. It's hilarious. And he reads it, and then he's like, oh my God, Darth Vader is my father, blah, blah, blah. So they film the scene. They kick everybody else out of the studio. They film the scene, those couple of people. And he's like, now, if you tell anybody, like, if this gets out, we're going to know it was you. So we're going to have a problem. So he kept his mouth shut, and he's telling the story about they go to the premiere and nobody else is still aware. So they watch the movie, they get to the end, and Harrison Ford leans over and he's like, hey kid, you didn't fucking tell me that. It's just hilarious because it's like such a stark reaction of, well, okay, you didn't tell me. And then, yeah.
Well, now the craziest thing is, like, I don't remember who said it, but somebody had been in a Marvel movie, and they also had done something else where they had an NDA, and they asked them, like, whose NDA is more serious, and I think one of them was like a governmental thing, and they said Marvel's is more serious.
Oh yeah,
Marvel's NDA is like, and like, it just shows you how dumb actors are, because they literally, like, Tom Holland, they didn't let him know anything. Like, he talks about when he filmed the Tony Stark's funeral, they thought it was a birthday party. Until they got to the fucking graveyard, and it's like, you have to be kept into that much of a shadow. Like, you're gonna fucking tell somebody, like, what? There's people out there that have low-level government jobs, but they're NDA'd up to where they'll go to prison if they say something, and you can't even keep a scene to a movie to your fucking self.
Yeah, and then, like, one of the directors was making, Mark Ruffalo, maybe. It was somebody, but I think I know who you're talking about. They were like, they were talking about, they were doing an interview and they were joking about Disney had snipers with rifles pointed at them and you could see the laser dance on their chest. Like,
Well, I
I
mean,
get it.
to their credit, they do have. I mean, something like announcing Downey Jr. for Doctor Doom. That I don't think got out.
No.
I don't remember seeing anything about it until they unmasked him, and then it was fucking
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I
Disney
mean,
takes their stuff seriously.
oh no 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 oh no! You know what it was? It was Rockstar versus Marvel. It was one of the guys
Okay.
that did a voice for Rockstar, and he also did did a character in one of the
Okay.
Marvel movies. And they asked him what was more serious. Apparently, as bad as Marvel is, Rockstar's
Mhm.
worse.
Okay.
Like Rockstar's NDA, I guess, is one of those things of like not only can they potentially sue you, but you're effectively blackballed in the industry.
Wow.
Like they have so much reach and power that if you fuck them over and you leak something and they know it, you won't be working in the voice acting industry anymore or the
Given the
mocap
size,
acting industry.
given the size and amount of money that Rockstar makes, I could see it. Like, there's a couple of studios that I could see.
I mean, I'll put it this way: if Call of Duty Black Ops 6 costs 700 million, then we're
Mhm.
looking at Grand Theft Auto's Grand Theft Auto 6 being over $1 billion budget.
Yeah, and
And I
it'll
mean, they're
make that
gonna,
back.
yeah, they'll rake it in. I mean, they'll make it in just by the game itself, and then everything else that comes. Like they've made billions on the online.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like Rockstar, they've made. And here's my thing: is I am one of these people. I feel Red Dead 2 is a way better game than GTA 5.
Okay.
Red Dead 2's story is better.
Mhm.
The gameplay is better. The graphics are better. And here's the thing: once GTA 6 comes out, it's going to trump Red Dead.
Yeah.
Just because you're watching the Rage engine evolve,
Right.
and the evolution from GTA 5 to Red Dead 2 is significant. So that means the evolution from GTA 5 to GTA 6 is going to be probably incredible. The only
Yeah.
problem is you're going to have an Xbox Series S or a fucking PS5 to play it,
Yeah.
at least for the first year.
Yeah. I just restarted a GTA 5 playthrough, and I picked up Red Dead 2 the last time it was on sale. So, because I've played GTA 5, I've finished it on my Xbox, got it on PC because they took it off Game Pass.
They've done
Um,
that several
and-
times. PlayStation did that too. They had GTA 5 on there. They
yeah,
removed it, and then I think recently they just put it back on there.
yeah, and Microsoft will probably put it back on Game Pass whenever 6 gets close to release too. Like, hey,
Whenever they can reacquire the licensing.
yeah. So I'll actually get to play through Red Dead 2 because I got it on sale as well. So I'll have a little better context for what you're saying. But I would imagine you're right. Like,
Well,
just the advances from.
here's the thing, and in the story wise as well. No matter what outcome I think you choose in GTA 5, my outcome was I always chose was to save all three of them. I didn't ever pit them against each other and kill each other. But I don't feel like any one of them dying has the same impact of the Red Dead story. Like the Red Dead story, there's a meme of it where like it's this guy and he's like, average player at the beginning of Red Dead 2. And he's just like
Mhm.
happy and smiles, and at the end of it he's just somber and he's like all emotional. And I think Red Dead 2's story is far superior to GTA 5.
Okay.
GTA 5 is a great story, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't feel as lived in those characters as you do in the ones in Red Dead.
Okay.
So, like, for me at least, playing and it might be because in Red Dead or GTA 5, you're playing as three separate people.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be just the fact that you're playing as one dude for the majority of Red Dead 2. You're
I
spending
was going to ask if that had.
50, 60, 70 hours with this character. You're getting them haircuts, you're buying them. Like, so maybe that's part of it. It's just a single solo protagonist. But
Mm-hmm.
like I don't like Michael was always I love all three of the main in GTA 5, but the actual connection to the character is not nearly as deep as the one you make for not only your main guy in Red Dead 2, but all the like when a main character in Red Dead 2 gets killed,
Mm-hmm.
it is always like fuck, are you kidding? Like it always gives you that feeling of like Oh fuck.
Okay.
And I don't think there's ever that moment in GTA 5. Like, there's not a main character that gets killed unless you choose, the ending where you either murder Trevor, Michael, or because you have a choice. You could either murder one of them or you
I
save them all.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, that sounds right.
And so,
Um,
like, no matter, I always chose the ending to save them all because I liked all the characters, but just not
yeah.
nearly. The GTA 5 uses surrounding characters differently too. Like in GTA 5, Michael hates his family.
Hmm.
Um, Trevor's a psychopath and doesn't really have any personal connections. The ones he has, he abuses the whole game.
Right.
And then you've got oh shit, what's the other guy's name? I completely forgot his
I
first name. You know who I'm talking about, though, the third
Yeah.
guy. He
Yeah.
doesn't really have any personal connections either. He's a young dude. He's single. His buddy treats him like shit. And so, like, all of the surrounding cast in GTA 5 is not likable.
Franklin.
Like, Franklin, exactly. Like, you're not
Yeah.
meant to enjoy those characters and attach yourself to them. Meanwhile, in Red Dead 2, you're a literal family gang and you
Hmm.
roam you move your location several times in the game, and each time most of your missions are all about how to bring money to the gang, how to get everybody out of this tight spot. You wake up and your area that you're never alone. Like, your camp has always got these main characters in it. They show relationships you have with these characters, and it's
Right.
beyond. It's like Arthur Morgan. They talk. So I'm not going to spoil a lot of his story, but just they don't really talk about it. It's just he at one point lost a child.
Okay.
There's one line of dialogue in the entire fucking game that references this, and you only hear it during a specific mission if you walk your horse slowly enough. And it's when he's talking to another character on the way. And it's the only
Okay.
reference he makes to this child that he lost. And most people don't even see it because most people rush from one objective to another. So most people have never heard the line.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. And
I mean,
like, if you really like, I would advise you to put as much time as you can into it. Like, right now I'm doing another playthrough where I'm doing all of the hunting. I just found the KKK. That was
hmm
awesome. Like, I'm trying to do every little thing, so I'm really pacing the campaign, trying not to like do something and then lock myself out of something, which I don't know if it's possible, but I want to make sure it isn't.
yeah, and that's kind of what my approach is going to be this time with Grand Theft Auto as well. Just because when I did it, I was going for completion. Or for finish the main story. I wasn't worried about all the side stuff. I wasn't worried about like maxing out my abilities and stuff like that. So it's like I'm going to do that this time around because I have played it before. So it's like, all right, let's do all the extra side stuff because that is one thing that Rockstar does do very well is depth.
Well, if you ever play the
Yeah.
online, let me know, because
Okay.
I really enjoy the online, but I when I play it, it's always solo.
Yeah.
And there is, like, once you beat that campaign, like, you have to grind and you have to do missions to earn money. But once you start playing the online quite a bit and you start earning decent money, there are so
hmm
many things they've built into that you unlock. Like, one of them is you have to have enough money to buy a bunker, but that bunker comes with governmental contracts. And
Okay.
that's a whole nother set of missions. One of the things is you have to buy a bounty hunting office. But once you do,
hmm
you get a whole set of bounty hunting missions. And the really cool thing
Very
is, and the
cool.
reason
Okay.
I stayed away from the online for so long is because the whole thing of like, man, it's everly persistent online. You're going to get killed right away. And I can tell you right now, for one thing, if you want to cruise through the map with your buddy, you can just do that all day. If you want to do a mission, you can jump straight to that mission.
Right.
So, like, generally speaking, I have not had the experience where I'm just standing there and get attacked by a group of people. So,
Right.
like, the online is a lot of fun, and it makes me sad because so is Red Dead 2's. But
hmm
I was going to say they stopped supporting it, but they actually haven't. There's new DLC coming out for it, not purchasable, but new missions and shit they're releasing for Red Dead
Okay.
2 online as well. Which Red Dead 2 online is a lot of fun. I mean, it's GTA online in the West.
Right. let you know.
Yeah, no, yeah, if you ever jump on GTA Online, and the thing was, is last time I played it was on the PS5 because they had the quote unquote enhanced edition that they released, and they didn't release the upgrades on PC. But
Yeah.
the ray tracing they introduced was so limited. I said fuck it. I installed it on PC. I'm running at my rig's pretty good and the game's old, so I'm running at 120 frames a second. It's the best looking version I've ever seen. I do want to do a GTA Online stream one day because
Okay.
it is a lot of fun. It's just a grind, and like they even have PvP missions where like one of
Yeah.
them is you're a group of people trying to take a drug stash, and the other group is defending it. Those are
Yeah.
even fun, and you make a lot of money on the PvP shit. Like you need like
Yeah.
150K to buy the bounty hunter
Mhm.
offices. But I think when you do PvP shit, I was making like 25K a mission. So like, it does depend on how hard the mission is you're doing and stuff. But they've got a bunch of
Right.
shit that you don't interact with other people at all. You're
Oh yeah.
essentially just doing a mission either on your own or with a friend online in the world. It's they've
Yeah.
got it set up pretty nicely, and they do have an option to not to like a pacifist mode. The
Hmm.
problem is you cannot do missions in pacifist mode for the most part. So like if you just
Okay.
want to cruise around and fuck around in the map, that's one thing. But missions are locked to. I suppose they got to have some sort of accountability system. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah, we
imagine
can
that's
definitely
the
do that at
issue.
some point though.
But yeah, and that's the other thing though is I put Red Dead 2 and GTA 5 both on my 10 terabyte drive because they're
Hmm.
both huge. They're both 100 plus gig,
Yeah.
fucking massive. And but here's the thing: those games, out of all the games, deserve to be massive.
Mm.
Like, how is Call of Duty 160, 200
Right.
gig, and it's still the shit? I mean, Warzone is garbage. I've played a lot of Warzone, and the problem with Warzone is it's shit. The quality you get when you buy a Call of Duty in the multiplayer is
Hmm.
nowhere present in Warzone. Between the hackers, the instability, the server issues, Warzone really feels like a beta free to play product. And it's so like I don't get frustrated with the regular multiplayer usually. If I play
Right.
two rounds of Warzone, my blood's boiling and I want to fight someone.
Yeah.
It's just like that's why I don't play it as much anymore. It's just like I'll play others. Like I have so many things I can fucking play. Why would I play something
Yeah.
that's gonna piss me off at this point?
Right.
If I'm not dealing with crashes every other game, I'm dealing with some fucking cheater. No, hitting me from across the map, looking at a concrete wall, somehow still fucking hitting me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people who don't play competitive shooters don't understand why people hate the cheating. So like I had a friend of mine who doesn't play that. Like he only has a Switch basically. So
Hmm.
like he's all locked in on the indies. That's all he gives a shit about. He thought indies should have won all of the game awards and all that sort of shit. And I'm over here going, no, Red Dead 2 needs to win it for the fifth year in a row.
Yeah.
But he was like, I don't get why you guys get so mad. And I had to straight out eventually tell him, like, you don't get it because you don't play it.
Right.
That's like me telling you how much I love chocolate, and you going, I don't get it because I've never had it.
Yeah.
That's actually funny. I had friends who were allergic to chocolate, and I would be like, dude, you've never had fucking chocolate? And he's like, I've never had it, so I don't crave it. And I'm like, fuck, dude. I would not want to have to give up chocolate. It's like chocolate milk is one of the greatest fucking things ever.
Yeah. I recently got back on the chocolate train because, God, 13 years ago at this point, I was diagnosed with a minor heart palpitation thing. And they were like, you need to limit your caffeine. Well, there's caffeine in chocolate.
Yep.
And so I went like 12, solid 12 or 13 years. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to look. So I looked it up, and it's like the amount of caffeine that is in most of the chocolate products that I enjoy, Reese's, peanut butter M&Ms, things like that.
Which only have a fraction of real chocolate. Let's be real.
Right. Right. And that's exactly it. The amount of caffeine in there is negligible. So
Yeah.
I talked it over with Wim because she is my wife. She is my partner. She gets to say in these kinds of things. She wants to keep me around for some reason. So I talked it over with her. I was like, hey, look, here's, I'm allowed to have decaffeinated beverages, which still have trace amounts of caffeine. There's less caffeine in a Reese's cup than there is in a cup of tea that I drink regularly. What do you think? And she's like, we'll give it a try. We'll see how you feel. Obviously, if you feel like crap, don't do it. So
It's always
I'm
the
back on the
safest route.
chocolate train a little bit, have I missed chocolate so much.
Dude,
While we were on the subject of chocolate.
part of the way I've been able to lose the weight I have is simply just not buying the shit. Because like
Mhm.
my problem was never my problem was never like I'm gonna eat everything in the house. It was always like
Mhm.
if we go to Sam's Club for like our weekly shopping,
Yeah.
and the problem is we'd get a clearance bag of Reese's Easter rabbits for $10 for this big fucking bag, and you in your head you go, oh fuck, that's gonna last forever. And then before
Mhm.
you know it, at least for me, I'm pulling 5 or 6 at night and I'm jamming them in my
Mhm.
fat hole. And that was always the problem
Yeah.
with candy. And the worse it is, the cheaper it is. Like I can go get to Sam's Club right now and get a 3 pound bag of saltwater taffy for like $8. And I love saltwater taffy. And I always tell Jen if she ever comes home and I'm surrounded by a bunch of saltwater taffy wrappers and like a chocolate milk, I've given up. Like, understand, I've given
Yeah.
up. Like that's how you know if I'm just chug-a-lugging a 6 pack of
Yeah.
chug-a-lugs and I'm eating fucking saltwater taffy on stream, you should probably call someone.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sweets are my problem. Bread, not my problem. Carbs in general, not terribly my problem. Candy and
Yeah.
sugar, oh. Like I haven't had
Mhm.
sugar soda in a very long time. And the last time I did wasn't that long ago, but it was just a sip of a McDonald's Coke. And the thing was so
Mhm.
fucking sweet, it puckered my mouth. Like
Yeah.
I took a sip, I was like, oh god, and it's like you don't when you're drinking that shit all the time, you don't realize that.
Yeah.
You don't realize that like McDonald's Coke is literally liquid diabetes.
Mhm. Like people talk about the mixture that they have, and it's like McDonald's specifically has, they have some proprietary like, however the normal percentage is of like soda water to the syrup, McDonald's tweaks it, and that's why everybody says that their sodas taste better. Yeah, because there's more sugar in it than you would get down the
Well,
street at
and
the Taco
and
Bell or
and
whatever.
the crazy thing is, right? Like if you found out that if they found out, let's say Marble, which I think this is kind of how it worked, and the reason why they're attacking them so bad, like it's no different than if one cigarette company said, "Hey, all cigarettes are good, but the only place you can get super cigarettes is here."
Hmm.
The society would try to destroy them.
Hmm.
They would go, "You're trying to kill people by putting more of this poison in there." But for McDonald's, it's like, "Nah, man, I'm gonna go get a super Sprite,"
Yeah.
and that's completely okay. It's in
Right.
our priorities are insane. Like with the
Mm.
vaping and everything, where it's like you can ban vaping. For one thing, vaping is already illegal for kids under 21.
Hmm.
So you're going to ban it for everybody else, and then people will smoke cigarettes again. There are alternatives. I'm not a big fan of nicotine mints. I vape a very low dose, so
Hmm.
like anytime I've used a nicotine mint, it's always just overpowering. It gives me a head rush.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of them. There's those Zins things. I don't know. I've never tried them. I assume they're just nicotine mints.
Probably.
One of my favorite things I think I've ever had though is caffeine gum. Oh, when I was on dialysis, dude, like I felt
Yeah.
like I was, in like a mummy movie where they gotta pour like a vampire that's been dried out for centuries. They gotta pump them full
Yeah.
of blood to get them operational again. When I was on dialysis, caffeine was that. Where like I would get
Yeah.
out of dialysis and I would wait for Jen to come get me, and I would just kind of be in a little bit of a daze until I got coffee in me. And as
Yeah.
soon as I got coffee in me, my body was like, okay. I started to feel normal, but like it just drained the shit out of you to the
Yeah.
point of like until I got that caffeine jolt, I was fucking I was weaker, I was slower, I was tired, like and I'm
Yeah.
dealing with literally climbing down fucking stairs. So
Right.
it became the routine of like if we had time, because a lot of the time Jen would have to pick me up, drop me off at home, then go back to work. But if we had time, we'd
Mm.
go get a coffee because I needed if unless I was gonna go home and sleep the rest of the fucking day, I needed
Yeah.
something. And they always used to say, like, you need 6 hours of recovery time after dialysis. And I'm stupid. So I was just like, ah, fuck you, you 6 hours. I'm not going back to sleep. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'd drink a coffee. And then I'm telling you right now, I'm probably very wrong about this. But Diet Mountain Dew, or Mountain Dew Zero, is a miracle fucking elixir. Okay? One day we're going to find out this shit cures cancer or something, because I had kidney damage from this infection. I was on dialysis, right? We didn't know this at first, but all colas have phosphorus in them. They use it for the coloration, and I couldn't have phosphorus. I still technically am not supposed to. So I had to stop drinking Dr. Pepper Zero, which I fucking miss. And Mountain Dew Zero doesn't have it. So I started drinking Mountain Dew again, which I hadn't drank in quite some time.
Of all the extra crap Mountain Dew has, it doesn't have phosphorus.
Well, then I'm over here, and I'm, a lot of water, a lot of tea. But then I started drinking more Mountain Dew because I'm like, fuck, it's the only soda I could have. I love, blah, blah, blah. And the tests keep getting better. Like, I thought, like, I really shouldn't be drinking this Diet Mountain Dew. Even though it is diet, I have no idea what it's doing to my kidneys. And what my plan was is if my kidney doctor said, like, hey, we're seeing this level's not good, this level's not great, it's not good, it's not trending right, I'd have been like, okay, only water, only tea from now on. But the fact that I go back there and she's like, your phosphorus level's basically normal, this is looking good, this is looking better, and it's like miracle, like this shit is what they sold on wagons in the West, is like, like, get your elixir here. Like in Red Dead 2, when you drink a bourbon to heal your fucking Red Dead power, it's actually Mountain Dew.
Yeah. God, now I'm just picturing, have you ever seen A Million Ways to Die in the West?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah. Now I'm just picturing the guy who was selling the elixir. Science!
Yep. And like there's a whole thing of that in Red Dead 2, Red Dead 1. Have you played through Red Dead 1?
I have not.
There's a whole mission where you get hooked up with this guy who's selling elixirs, and there's a whole chain of them. And the problem is every time you come across him, he's basically being run out of town. So, like, in one of the missions, he uses you as, like, look at this man. He just drank my elixir, and he tests your shooting, and that's how they introduce, like, the Red Dead mechanic and the Deadeye. And then another one, he comes in, and you do it again, but the guy's like, I don't believe you. And he's like, well, go ahead and fight him then. He's strong as an ox. So you gotta beat the shit out of the guy, like... That's how I feel on Mountain Dew. Like, before, if I have to go lift a car, I'm gonna chug a can of Mountain Dew and run out there. We're just gonna do tests from now on. I'm gonna supplement Mountain Dew instead of protein powder and start working out again.
And chug a Mountain Dew while the Popeye music plays. Da, 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 da,
Yeah,
da.
right. It's green. It might as well be spinach. Well, I mean, and then the problem is like, unless you're paying attention to food labels, you have no idea what's fucking in anything. Like, MSG is in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really it's not that bad of a thing unless you're on a low sodium diet, because it's fucking super salt.
Right.
Like,
that's why I always laugh whenever people are like, oh, I'm watching my MSG. It's salt. You're putting salt on your food.
Like, unless you have, like, an allergy towards it, that makes sense. But, like, if you're over here like, I'm not going to eat that MSG because it's MSG, it's like, it's salt, dude. Like, it's not good for you, but it's all relative. I just had a discussion about vaping versus smoking, and I'm like, I'm not saying vaping is good for people. I'm not saying it is healthy. I'm saying it's better than smoking a pack a day. Like, it's all relative, right?
Right.
And that's where we get caught up so much in, like, I'm right and you're wrong, and it's like I'm not on that spectrum. I'm just saying I'd rather see a kid hitting a vape than smoking a fucking Marlboro.
Right.
Or chewing tobacco.
People have lost the ability to acknowledge nuance.
Yeah, and it's like, here's the other thing, is like one of the worst things ever, I thought, and I know it's gonna sound stupid, but when they banned menthols, I'm like, all you're doing is having people now smoke cigarettes they don't like the flavor of.
Right.
Like, they're still gonna smoke the fucking cigarettes. Now they just hate it even more, and it's all about the addiction. It's got nothing to do with the flavor. It's all about that need to feed. You created that. Way to go.
Yeah. Now they're smoking it faster just to get it over with. Yeah. So now they can get 2 cigarettes in the same time that it took them to smoke one before.
Yeah, it's
now there's no enjoyment behind it. It's just
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be I'm going to go out and have a smoke on my break and stop thinking about burning this place to the ground. And now it's I just burnt my hand because I smoked this thing like I owed it money. So I'm going to use the butt to burn this place to the ground. Like, that's the problem. And then I had a weird fucking call the other day. I haven't worked for this company for 5 or 6 years, whatever it's been. It's been a while.
Oh, here we go.
No, it's a good call. I just can't do anything about it at the moment. But out of the blue, an old manager calls me and he's like, I want you back as a supervisor.
Oh,
And I was like, but I had to tell the guy, like, look, I'm not independent right now. I'm not even able to fucking walk at the moment. And so we left it on, like, as soon as I'm up and able, I'm going to give him a call back. But, I mean,
okay.
talk about out of the fucking blue.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to these people in years. And I saw the on my caller ID on my phone, it said the name, and I'm like, what, gonna try to fucking
fuck
sell
is
me
this
something? Like, so I answered it kind of like, hello? And it was my old boss. And he was basically just like, I need somebody that can do this job and somebody I actually like fucking working with. The only concern I have is if it's 5 years later and I'm getting brought up in a Rolodex, how much turnover has hit you?
Right.
Like, I'd imagine I have to be kind of far down the fucking chain, no?
I mean, if you left on good terms,
I
not
did.
not as far as you might think.
So the company, we were selling lawn care. So the winter you got like a month or so off, and it was like you can either come back or not. So I left, and I wasn't fired, and I technically left on good terms because there wasn't a 2 weeks because I was already been off for a month, and I just
Right.
decided not to return. And
Yeah.
it was I in my career have done sales mainly, and this was sales, but it was also call center sales, which it's not bad. It's just monotonous, you know. It's you're
Yeah.
fucking. But they told me that things have kind of changed how they handle it. It's mostly an inbound center, which inbound, if you ever sold on the phone, inbound is so much nicer
Hmm.
because you have people calling with at least the idea of like maybe I'm going to sign up for that today if I hear what I want to hear.
Yeah.
The only problem with sales is you have to be a good liar, which I am. I don't like to lie, but you have to be able to, and not that you are lying to people, but you have to be able to stare them in the face and go, yeah, even if you don't know the fucking answer.
Yeah.
And then you find out the answer and you can retcon it later if you have to. But if you're good at your job, you should know, like, anything I've ever sold, I knew the 360 about it. So if there was a fucking question, it was like, no, I got that. It's not going to bite me in the ass when commission's supposed to hit. Instead, I get written up.
Right. Yeah, I worked at JCPenney in the draperies department for a while, and same thing. Like, we weren't commissioned there, but it was the same thing. Like, just be honest with people, and you know, you, like whether the managers liked it or not. Like, I answered people's questions honestly, and ultimately that drove more business back to me than just saying yes did.
Dude, I don't know, man. I couldn't imagine. I'd have to imagine J.C. Penney's depressing to work in. Just like the fluorescent lights and the constant color of beige.
It, it honestly wasn't too bad. I mean, I was in the drapery department, so we're way in the back corner of the store where nobody really goes unless they're specifically looking for drapes.
They're in this section, and most of the questions are like, "Hey, how do I get out of here? I was looking for
Basically,
something else. Not
it
I
was
wanted a mug. How did I get
yeah,
here?"
it was. How do I get out of here? They were looking for the custom like living room department, which was right next to ours, or they were looking for the catalog pickup department, which was directly on the other side of us.
But
Not a lot of traffic in draperies.
we took a survey, and 76% of your customers ask you questions, and I believe it was, "Where's the bathroom?" Yeah, that's about right. Yeah,
Yeah,
70, 80%. Sure.
yeah,
I worked at Blockbuster, and I enjoyed it.
yep,
I too was a straight shot, and I had a lot of people that would come to me and go, "Hey, what movie do you recommend?" Because I would be at my register, and somebody would come, "Hey, man, what do you?" Shit, don't worry about
yeah,
it. It's garbage.
yeah.
And if you have the same sort of taste as they're always going to come back to you. I used to find it
Hmm.
funny because like I don't. Maybe it's all retail, but it was so catty because you'd have people come to you and go, "Yeah, I asked your employee over there what he thought of the movie, and he said he liked it. What do you think?" And if I didn't like it, I'd be like, yeah, it's not good. And he'd be like, yeah, I didn't think you had good tastes. Like, that was the funny thing about Blockbuster is people would ask you, and then they'd come back mad that you recommended them a movie. Like, if they didn't like it, they'd be like, why'd you recommend me this piece of shit, dude? And it's like, I thought it was all right. I don't know. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
It was a rewards
Nope.
movie. You got it for free. Shut up.
Right. Nope. I worked at Hollywood Video, so you and I are mortal enemies apparently. But same thing.
I bought quite a few Blu-rays from Hollywood Video because there used to be one in the area we went camping. And at one point, I brought, I think, my PS3 or whatever it was, or PS4, and a monitor to watch movies on. And we went to one of the only Hollywood Videos left, and it was like a bin that had like $3, $5, and $7 Blu-rays or something. I think we walked out of that place with a fucking stack of them.
That's where we got a bunch of our movies. Was Hollywood Video, and then for a while, I don't know if they still have it. I haven't gone into a Walmart in ages, but they had the same thing. It was like that $3, $5, and $7 bin just full of crap movies.
Walmart's dead, dude. Walmart. I used to go to the $7.99 Blu-ray bin and like a child dig through them. Basically, physical media in stores is dead.
Yeah.
If you want something that came out Tuesday, you can probably get it. Other than that, like Target's book section has more titles than their fucking movie section at this point.
Yeah, thankfully there's a couple of good used like record stores around here in we're in Phoenix. Zia Records, they are amazing. They have records, they've got CDs, they've got video, like everything.
If you can find them out here, we have a couple disc replays still.
Mm.
And disc replay, when I first started going there as a kid, was like basically just CDs. And then as I got older, now it's everything. I mean, it's basically a pawn shop.
Yeah, that's kind of what Zia's is too. Like it's used everything, but you can find whatever you want there pretty much. And they have.
You can go hunting too and like look up these rare ones and be like, oh shit, they got Dogma for $10. I gotta buy it.
Yeah.
The rumor is that's coming out soon. That the licensing that Weinstein's had over it that got changed or something. And
I hope they do because
that's what probably his best movie.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big fan of Clerks 2. I found that movie fucking hilarious, but I think Dogma's probably his best movie.
Yeah.
And it's one that nobody knows about because he's made like not great movies recently, and you can't watch. I mean, you can watch Dogma; it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
To be fair, like they have the full movie out there, but I want to own it. Like I want to act like one of my favorite movies is True Lies. And I was a huge Arnold fan as a kid. Like I mean, everything: Running Man, True Lies, Terminator 2, Terminator, all of them, Commando, Predator. I mean, I don't think there's a Schwarzenegger movie I haven't seen. But True Lies had been out for fucking 30 years without even a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
All they had was the shittiest DVD quality DVD you can find, and they finally released the thing on 4K, and that was like okay. And then, you release movies like RoboCop on 4K, and every time I'm there. Like, I'm an 80s movies kid where it's just anything Stallone put out, Schwarzenegger. What is it? Showdown in Little Tokyo with Lundgren and Brandon Lee, like all of those fucking cheesy 80s action. Tango and Cash. I mean, I can go through a way too long. All of the Lethal Weapons, fuck it. Which, by the way, Lethal Weapon is not on 4K, and that's a fucking travesty.
That really is.
Like the fact that that's not out there, but there's some movies that are is like, are you kidding me? Come on, get to it, Warner Brothers. And I think I'm gonna. So part of the PlayStation Premium has their Sony Pictures library.
Okay.
And they've got relatively new shit, so I'm wondering how long it's going to take. I wonder if Venom 3 is out there already, and if Craven will be out there soon, because both of those are huge flops.
Yeah.
Venom 3 didn't look good. I don't understand. Venom 2 was terrible. You can't do a Carnage movie that's rated PG-13. It's just undoable.
Yeah. Honestly, Sony just needs to let it go.
Well, the guy who was the head of the Marvel Sony crossover movies left the company now after Craven.
Really?
He's been ousted. Yeah, they probably were like, We've literally lost hundreds of millions because of you. Like, you're out.
Yeah.
Like,
I
and
was saying,
especially considering like Marvel takes over Spider-Man and you see the quality product they put out.
right. Like,
You know, like we have stuff to juxtapose this to. You have Venom, Sony's Venom, versus
right.
Marvel's Spider-Man, and one is clearly fucking better.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
Marvel needs to bring Tom Holland in as well and bring him into the
hmm
Marvelverse. The rumor is Deadpool's next appearance is in Spider-Man.
That, I hope so. Because I've seen the comics of Spider-Man and Deadpool, and they're freaking hilarious.
It would be really cool if they did an animated series of Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the
I
rumor is
mean,
because Ryan Reynolds has said he doesn't want to do a third dedicated Deadpool or another Deadpool movie. Like, he just wants to pop up in the other movies.
yeah. I mean, let him. He's, he has done genius work with the Deadpool movies. Like, just let him have fun with it.
Yeah, I
Stan Lee
mean,
did it for.
well, the whole thing is I mean, Deadpool really was that character. He was kind of like
Mhm.
just would pop up and shit, and he'd be in a random, he'd be in Spider Man, he'd be with Wolverine. Another one that they need to figure out how to introduce him into is the Punisher,
Yeah.
because he had shit with Punisher too. I hope the new Daredevil's good. I've heard good things so far. As far as they're saying, it's actually even darker than
Yeah.
the Netflix series. So
I need to go back and watch the Netflix series. I did not finish that one. Um,
I so
for a
I
while.
was I was pissed off at the Punisher series because like
hmm
for me, the only shot you get of the actual Punisher in the Netflix show is the very last shot of the series where he's in a dark like tunnel way and he appears
hmm
with dual machine guns and he's just firing screaming, which is straight up
Yeah.
an iconic cover from one of the comics. But
Right.
you don't get anything like that besides maybe the prison scene and the rest of the show. Like
Okay.
I thought Marvel's or Netflix's Punisher wasn't terrible, but I don't know, man. I feel like Punisher should be kind of balls to the wall, and it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, and
Although
that's
New Daredevil, I haven't watched it, but apparently they released a rated R teaser. So
okay.
if they're willing to push it, I really like the Netflix series, so I'm all in. Hell, I even like the Ben Affleck movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't think I have not thought poorly of any of the Marvel. Well, okay, since the more current Fantastic Four, with like Jessica Alba, and I didn't think those were bad. I didn't think that Daredevil was bad. I never saw Elektra, but
I didn't watch Elektra either.
I thought that she was a good addition to Deadpool and Wolverine. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know,
But now you really want a Gambit movie, which is
I
kind of
would
shitty
love.
because like Channing Tatum wanted to be Gambit so bad, what, a decade ago or whatever it
Right, he's
was.
been lobbying for that since they started Marvel stuff.
I don't know. I don't understand why you wouldn't. Like
Yeah,
you've made a very good entrance for the character, and maybe the movies you have for them are the origin stories of how they got there. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, they've done it with everybody else. It gets
But
at least one intro movie.
there's a deleted scene in Deadpool where they show Gambit actually survived.
Okay.
So you got to wonder if they're going to use that scene if they introduce him again, because that's the
hmm
exact same thing they did with. Oh wait, no, they've done that in a couple movies. Like they did that with Harold and Kumar
hmm
in the second one. Neil Patrick Harris gets shot with a shotgun, and then
Oh.
in the third one, he's back, and they're like, "How the fuck are you alive?" And he's like, "Apparently, you didn't watch after the credits." So then, after the credits in Harold and Kumar 2, they show him just get up and walk away. So who knows if they do something like that, but I hope they're smart with Deadpool because, like, no matter what, people are going to want him to be more than just a Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much he's in the movie, they're going to want him to be integral to the storyline. Like,
Right.
and the other thing is, like, could you imagine if Deadpool was in Endgame? How much. Like, just think about the idea of Thanos rips his arms off and throws him across the fucking planet, across the territory, and he comes back
Mhm.
running at him with like baby arms with a sword in him. Like there's if they had introduced him into it earlier, there's a lot of shit that could have been done.
Yeah. I mean, and really, they could even still go back and like just
Retcon it, yeah.
yeah, like Deadpool messes with the timeline. Like it's just, oh no, I was there.
Can you imagine if they do that? I mean, you could theoretically retcon the entire every death.
Yeah,
Like you take the scene where Scarlett Johansson sacrifices herself for the stone.
yeah,
Out of nowhere, Deadpool comes in, pushes her out of the way, and jumps. They get the stone, and then he crawls back up.
yeah,
And it's just like, no, it's all right, just a little bit of a fall. Like
yeah.
that's the thing is, there's if they really, I mean, it would probably piss off a lot of people though.
It
if,
would.
like if he went through just fucking revive, like Tony Stark doesn't die because Deadpool snaps his fingers and he
Right.
like he dies and they have the emotional sad scene and instead of Pepper, it's Tony Stark talking to Deadpool and he dies. And then like they're like all kind of sad. They're talking to each other and they look back at his body and it's gone. And then he pops up behind him and he's like, "You did a
Yeah.
really good job, gang." Like, there's a lot of shit they could do with it that I hope they're smart about it. I mean, Marvel's been. I haven't liked all their products, and a lot of it is logical
Yeah.
shit, and a lot of it is also by surrounded, political, apolitical things. You know, like I thought
Mhm.
the scene in She-Hulk where she talks where her anger comes from, and it's all about how she's looked down upon in her industry and she's not taken seriously, and so she knows anger. Well, there's a couple problems. The first problem is you're talking to the Hulk, Bruce Banner, who has watched everybody he's ever loved die around him. You have what's her face sacrifices herself with a soul stone that he was in love with her. Every iteration of his character is based upon the sadness he has of the people he can not be close to. But you're lecturing him on anger, and then like 2 episodes later, you bitched about not being taken seriously as a female attorney, and then you're twerking in your office.
Right.
Like, if I was an attorney, man or not, and I'm twerking in my office, I think it's okay for you to go, come on, you're not, you really? Like, so
Yeah.
there's been shit like that that has annoyed me, but, like, I haven't watched WandaVision, and that, I do want to watch that. Like, Jen and I do want to watch that.
Mhm.
But I also thought Doctor Strange 2, as cool as it was, to me, even though it wasn't, it's an integral part of it felt almost disconnected. Like every time they do a solo movie, like if they go from an Avengers to a solo movie, it always feels like, where are your friends?
Mhm.
Like where's everybody else? Like it feels like a party that half the people came to.
Yeah. And part of that, like, and I think that Disney/Marvel acknowledged this both with the Marvel side and the Star Wars side, was for a little bit there, they were milking those cash cows as hard as they could. And I think that they finally got the message of like, maybe we should stop this for a moment.
Well, I mean, the
And
problem with the Star Wars is make quality and don't make quality that like I don't know. I'm just getting tired of anything having agendas built in. So it's like, can we just focus on making the best, coolest storyline for whatever the property
yeah.
is? Like there was things
Yeah.
like the last 3 Star Wars movies, like have you seen them all presumably, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the final movie, The Last Jedi.
Hmm.
For one thing, I don't know anybody who likes how they handled Luke.
No.
But beyond that, there's the one of the final confrontations I think between Luke and Star-Lord or Adam Driver. What is his name? Basically new
Oh.
Darth Vader. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
There's that confrontation where they're on the open battlefield
Hmm.
and Luke is just a vision. And he goes to
Yeah.
strike him and he realizes he's just a vision, right? Right
Yeah.
there, you are showing the fact that, yes, Luke is still in tune with the Force and he's got a lot of power, sure.
Hmm.
But then he disappears into pixie dust and you never see him again.
Right.
For me, it would have had much more of an impact because you got to and remember, in the background, it was all of like the AT-ATs and all of
Hmm.
his soldiers and shit in the background. It would have been so much
Yeah.
cooler if, as they're having their confrontation, and new Darth Vader's trying to prove how powerful he is. Luke just kind of looks around, or Luke is staring at him. He's in front of all, they're far away from it, but all the AT-ATs and shit are behind him. And Luke just kind of looks at him and then looks in the background, and everything starts exploding.
Yeah.
Like, he just wipes out the entire fucking fleet behind him. Like, to me, that would have shown a hell of a lot more power than him turning... Like, let him turn into pixie dust, but let him actually do something. And then you had the whole... Somehow Leia can go in space and not die, and she can fly.
Yeah. My issue with that trilogy was nobody went into it with any sort of cohesive plan. It was like, oh, okay, JJ, yeah, you go ahead and write this one. Just write whatever you want. And then they handed it over to Rian Johnson, and they were just like, Ryan, just go ahead and do whatever you want to do. And then, we don't like the direction you went, so JJ, just go ahead and wrap that up for us. And they didn't sit down and go, okay, these are the specific plot points that we want to hit. Write whatever you want around those, but these are the beats that we want. They didn't do that.
That's the fucked up thing is I will give J.J. Abrams credit. He left that first movie off onto where they could have done anything with it. The only time you see Luke is the ending where he turns around and looks at her, and then it ends. So you could have kept Luke, this badass Jedi, who's turned away from it to save everybody around him, essentially, who's forced back into the fold, and made him an integral, cool part of it. But instead, you kind of had him go the Yoda route, and it didn't make any... And then the connecting lore of, because he almost killed new Vader, and it's like...
Yeah.
None of this... I feel like a character like Luke wouldn't have turned away from the Force in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that they had him turn away from it was just kind of like, you don't understand. It's a faith, and he was the ultimate devotee. He was the Emperor, but for the light side. He was all in. Like, it's hard. And the craziest thing is he was all in till like a decade before the movie.
Right.
It wasn't even like, he had been falling out for 30 years. It was like, no, I almost killed my nephew because, he's evil. And so I left, instead of trying to make sure that he never goes to the dark side, guiding him. Instead of doing that, I said, fuck the Force completely.
Yeah.
That just didn't make sense to me. And like, the other thing in The Last Jedi is I think there's legitimately one lightsaber battle. And it's the last one where Rey and New Vader go after the Knight. Oh, Ren. Yeah. The Knights, they go after the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
And it's a well done one, but I mean, people gave the prequels a lot of shit, but the prequels have the most action and the most lightsaber battles of any of them. Like, the Attack of the Clones is basically 2 hours of fucking awesome action. And so, like, I think because of the new trilogy, I would have to imagine people are looking at the prequels minus Phantom Menace a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, they were weird, and Lucas had a lot of weird shit he tossed into them. And then the Jar Jar thing was overblown, but, when you really look at those movies are really cool sci-fi action movies.
Yeah. I think that my absolute favorite lightsaber battle out of all of those, though, to date, my two favorites, actually, there's two. One is in the Obi-Wan series. I don't know if you watched it.
Vader versus Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that one, and Ahsoka and Anakin in the Ahsoka series.
I saw a meme where it says when the kids are being bad and they stop listening to mom, and you have Rob Zombie in the background where he's like, dig through the ditches, and it's the scene where Anakin is fighting Ahsoka, and in the lightning you see Vader's silhouette, and they timed it with Rob Zombie, and the meme is when Dad has to come in and discipline the kids. And I mean, here's the thing. I thought the Obi-Wan series was kind of boring, but I thought the treatment of Darth Vader was pretty cool because they give you kind of an insight where Vader himself didn't look at himself as human any longer. He didn't look at himself as Anakin. He was something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting.
I've been referring to those shows, those two, like whenever I talk about them collectively with friends, it's like I refer to them as the Hayden Christensen Redemption Tour.
I mean, you gotta give him credit. Yeah, he did put on a good show on that one.
Yeah, he's done phenomenal. The reaction to him at like whatever their convention is called, I forget what it is off the top of my head.
Oh, it's either
but the reaction
or Comic-Con.
No, it's the Disney specific one. I'll remember it later, but
yeah, I don't know. On that one.
But it's like whenever they do like D23 panels and stuff like that about Star Wars and stuff like that, when he shows up, the crowd reaction is such a vast difference between how people treated him and talked about him and referred to him at the end of Revenge of the Sith compared to now after those two shows is so totally different. And it's fantastic because he worked really hard for all of those. Writing.
I think people actually embrace him as Vader now.
Yeah.
Like the writing before it was kind of like meh.
Yeah, George Lucas is a terrible writer. He's a good storyteller. He is a terrible writer. And that's how we end up with all the shoddy dialogue from, the from the prequel trilogy and stuff like that. And so just everything like Jon Favreau and the rest of the guys that are working on the newer stuff are doing such a good job with all that stuff.
Who would have thought Jon Favreau would have been the one to revive Star Wars
franchises?
Right? Like, out of all fucking people.
Right?
Like, don't get me wrong, I like his work. There's a movie he made called Chef that he actually directed. I love that fucking movie. Yeah, dude, that's a comfort. It's one of those weird movies that is rated R, does have vulgar language, but somehow feels like a family movie you could watch with your family. It's a positive movie. The ending is happy. I love that fucking movie, and it's just kind of weird that him, out of all people, is who revitalized it, and to the point where I think they're making a. Aren't they making a Mandalorian movie now?
Yeah, they're making a movie that's supposed to tie up like all three of those, like Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and I think Ahsoka too.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. So there's at least one more season of Ahsoka coming out because they announced today that one of the guys from Game of Thrones is going to be replacing the guy that passed away who played Balin Skull.
Okay.
The guy that played the Hound in Game of Thrones is going to be in that. Yeah. So there's at least one more season of Ahsoka, and then I think they said they're going to do a movie to wrap up like all of that stuff.
So is that the second Game of Thrones person? Because the first one was the tall blonde guard. She was the stormtrooper in Force Awakens.
Yeah, Captain Phasma, Gwendolyn Christie.
What a wasted character she was in that movie.
Yeah, that she deserved way better.
They did nothing with her besides introduce her just to kill her off. It was ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. She could have had such a good conflict going with Finn, and they're just like, and you're dead.
I'm looking forward to the Game of Thrones game. Because from what I could tell, it takes place within the series, and you're kind of a shoehorned character seeing it all go down. Like, you're interactive in it all going down. Like, at some point, you work with Jon Snow with the wildlings invading. So your character, from what I can tell, because a lot of the scenes they show are showing people who are dead and die in the series. So that means at some point you're interacting with all of them. So I think what they're doing is just making a movie where they shoehorn you into all of the integral shit. It'll be, and if they do it right and they do it like something like Shadow of Mordor, it could be really fucking good.